2, 1.
Oh, I see it. Beautiful. Okay.
I give it about 2 minutes.
I can't hear you, Todd.
You can't hear.
I can't hear you.
Oh, just give it like, I'm going to share that.
Todd's going to share it out.
Okay, sounds good. All right. We don't have a fancy intro to this one because Todd usually does. Let me just see here. It says something went wrong. Can we just check the feed before we start?
Todd, Hung just said something went wrong.
What?
She's got
Oh,
a message.
hold on.
There's
No,
something
we're
went
good.
wrong.
We are good. We are good. We're
That's
good.
Good now.
We are all good. Okay. We'll just wait for, we'll share it out and just wait for a couple people to come in before we start.
8 people in the house.
How are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
Good. Just wait for a couple more people to come in. Okay, so it looks like we have a couple, 20 people in the house. So I'm going to formally start. Hello, everyone. My name is Huong Nguyen. I have the amazing honor of being a guest moderator for SoulSpeak 5D on the Soulogy platform. And it's so amazing because my first interview, actually you're technically number 2 because I did discuss things with Todd 3 weeks ago. So 3 weeks ago, we made an attempt to connect with Morgan, but she had a really bad headache and was feeling nauseous and vomiting. So Todd sat in your space instead. And we had a little bit of a trial run there. So I think one of the things maybe we will update all the viewers that are joining us is, so everyone knows Todd Medina and Morgan Waite have been running this amazing community of Soulogy, and just being such a beacon for creating a sense of collective community for everyone that's out there that don't normally fit in with the collective normative, whatever that definition is. So I want to start off with saying big props to both of you guys for extending your space, your sacred space, and including and being so inclusive and such a safe zone to discuss so many things that aren't mainstream, which I love. So Todd has been doing this for a solid 3 years, would you say?
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
3
close
years.
to 3 years, yep.
And this is a special event because Morgan usually likes hanging out in the background. So this is why she's kind of like lurking on that couch in the dark. Even though this, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like,
there's
even,
not a light in this room.
There's
That's
a little starlight.
Yeah,
yes.
Todd put the lamp on, but we actually don't have a light in this room.
You don't have a light in there. Okay, nice try. Anyways. So one of the things about Morgan that is that you tend to be the producer, the background producer. So one of your primary functions back on Soulogy is you schedule all your guests with Todd, and you basically set them up, and it always falls in perfect alignment. I know there's no hardcore formula for what you do, but it just seems that when I have, if I'm in a moment where I want to feel connectedness to someone out there, I seem to have this knack of tuning in, and the right guest is always with Todd for that. So you have that unreal knack. So the camera's going to be turned a little bit. So we're going to focus on you. And I know a lot of people, you are well loved. I think with all the comments, and one of your strengths is definitely writing. I love all the posts that you put out and all the imagery that goes with it. So I know this is exciting. It's like a rare Sasquatch sighting, I think today is, because we don't always get to see your face. So now we get to see you, like, just all you. I know Todd sometimes sits in with you, but now it's just all you. So that's really exciting. One of the things, there's so much going on, and I know Todd had mentioned on one of his, so one of the new things that Todd has been doing is he's been doing these newscasts, which I love. And I love it because it shows up on my feed and it says breaking. And I'm like, well, this is exciting. And his very first one is basically like he's just ranting for a good like 30 minutes. And I can hear him and I can hear you in the background saying, what are you yelling at? Which is so
actually didn't know he was on. He went out to the RV to do that, and I didn't know he was on. And next thing, you know, I thought, well, I'll hop on, and I saw that he was on, and I heard him yelling, so I just sent him a message and said, how come you're yelling?
Yeah.
Which I didn't know that he announced to everyone either, but yeah.
It was so funny. It was great.
Yep.
It was great. So and then I think on his second newscast, he had committed to just talking about the event that's unfolding currently once, and that was it. He didn't want to talk about it anymore. So I feel like I should follow. It's like Voldemort. Let's not speak his name, but we'll talk around it. So all the craziness that's happening in the world obviously will unfold perfectly as it should. So we won't get into the craziness per se. There is one topic that I'm particularly dying to talk to you about. And there was a post that you put out, I would say about 2 weeks ago, where you were talking about walk-ins.
Oh, well, actually that post was from a couple of years ago.
Oh, was it?
I think it came back around, and if Todd sees any of my stuff that comes back and he reads in it and he feels that it's still relevant, he'll share it. So
okay. So I really, for that topic, it seems to be a growing phenomenon, I think. So let's go back to you. When did you have this awareness about walk-ins?
Well, for me, it was, I had a reading. We were staying with Betta Da Vinci, and she does these great spiral readings. And she saw it, you know, within my life spiral, that, you know, when I was born, that I was actually a walk-in, and I was able to confirm with her that my mother and myself actually died, like in that childbirth. Both of us were resuscitated, but yeah, that was the first one. But I actually had it happen again in October last year. I got out of bed one morning, and Todd was out in the kitchen, and I looked at him and I got the biggest shock, and I won't say the exact words that I said, but it was like, who the are you, and what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
And it took me weeks to try to adjust to, well, who is this man in my kitchen? and like reconfigure our relationship again.
So when was that moment, would you say?
October
of this year?
No, last year.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
we're only in March.
Yeah, I know. Time's just all weird right now. So October of this year. And so I know on the post you said it was kind of funny because you started off the post super adorable, saying that you don't know much about walk-ins, but you have a need to share this experience. And then you write like, I don't know, 40 chapters of it. And then you end with, oh, perhaps I have more knowledge of this than I realized. So what is the knowledge that you have of walk-ins?
I still don't think I have much knowledge of it. I have a belief, and it's only my belief, that it's not really, I mean, I don't know much about walk-ins really, but it's sort of suggestive when people talk about that it's almost like another soul that comes in. But I really think that it's another aspect of us. It's a higher or a different aspect, a multi-aspect of us that comes in to say, okay, move aside. I'm going to come in and take over a little bit for a while here.
Okay. So there's a lot more in your post than that, but what would you say, for example, when can you sense a walk-in presence within other people, or is it just something that you have awareness for yourself?
It's just something that I had awareness for myself, and really that experience in October was the clearest for me, because I was, you know, Todd looked like a stranger to me for days. It's like all my feelings changed. I mean, I knew that I still loved him, but it was like trying to learn to love him from a different perspective again.
Right. So okay, so one of the things, maybe we should just backtrack a little bit and just give a kind of a clinical definition of what a walk-in soul is from what your perspective is. For anyone that's new to this concept, because it is one of those things that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about it, because they haven't been able to wrap their head around it?
Yeah. I don't feel like I know enough to actually sit here and try to talk about what a walk-in is, because I really don't believe that I know. Like I'm still trying to get my head around it all as well. The only thing I feel very sure of is that it's not another soul, so it's not another personality. You know, the Morgan that I've known is still here, but there's like another dimension, another energetic being or energetic part of me that comes in and sort of integrates with who I thought that I was at the same time.
Okay. Now, so for you, you're saying it is yourself, but perhaps from another timeline or another aspect of yourself that comes in?
Yeah, I think it's another, it feels very much like it's another aspect that comes in. And for me, like back in October, I almost felt like everything that I thought that I knew was almost pushed to the side. And yeah, there was a real uncertainty within myself for for a few weeks while I was adjusting to this new energy coming into my field and working alongside of me at the same time. Yeah.
So from just a practicality point of view, because I'm Asian and that's what I like to do, what would you say the function, the high level function of a walk-in soul is? Like, what is the point of it? Because from our perspective, I mean, there's a couple different things, right? Like, is it because the soul is like, what's the fine line between a walk-in soul and just right on possession? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know. And I went and laid out in the sun this morning, and that was one of the questions I asked about. What is the function? What was the function of that? What was it doing? Because I feel like I had a massive shift today, and it's almost like, this whole walk-in experience or the extra. And what's the reason for it? I mean, everything is for expansion and more self-love as far as I'm concerned. But it's almost like I might have hit the place today where I've actually integrated it fully. And I look at Todd and it's like, oh, there you are. Okay, now this feels back to normal again.
Mm-hmm. No, okay, just a housekeeping point. There's a lot of comments saying that your mic is low and people are having trouble hearing you. Is there a way that we can adjust that before we just move forward? Just test it?
Well, yes, but I'm totally a tech retard. So if Todd's watching, he'll have to come in and do that for me. Todd?
Is that
Todd? No, he's got his earphones in. He'll hear this in 30 seconds.
Okay. I think you do sound a lot clearer when you hold it out. So I think that mic is on that plastic part on the left hand side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So could you just, I mean, it looks goofy, but whatever. Is that better? Maybe just do a test run and let's see if that sounds better on just on the comment side.
Apparently I'm quiet.
You are normally soft-spoken. So
try taking it out. Is that better?
Oh, that sounds so much better.
Yeah, that's better.
Does that sound better to everyone? Let me just quickly check. I think it sounds better to me on this side, but I just want to make sure that the viewers, is that better for everyone? We have a bit of a lag, so we'll just wait. But it sounds better. I think, yeah, maybe you don't need it. We'll see here. Okay, so we'll keep going. So for the walk-ins, yeah. Okay, so thank you, Sasha. So she responded that, yes, it's a lot better.
So when I asked that question this morning when I was outside, and what I got back, and I haven't had much time to really go into it just yet, was that there's an aspect of me, one part of one of my aspects wanted to feel or experience what it was like to be in a human body.
Mm-hmm.
So they came in and almost like, this sounds ridiculous, but almost like joined me and shared in my experience for a time. Now, I don't know if they left today, but I was actually really sick most of the day. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to cancel again and get Todd to go on. But I came good. I actually came good. I was, vomiting and all sorts of stuff. But
oh man,
when I got up late this afternoon, I went, whew, I actually feel like I'm back. So, it's almost like, has it gone or it's fully integrated? I'm really not quite sure.
Okay. I know, so I have a personal experience with walk-ins as well. I have my brother's best friend, Devin, and he is and this was before I even understood what walk-ins was. So he had a psychic break. There was a traumatizing experience in basically about, I would say 3 or 4 years ago, where the love of his life broke up with him and he had a really hard time dealing with it. And at that very point, he became a completely different person. And even as an intuitive, he felt different. Like his behavior was so not his normal behavior, but he also felt different. It was fractured and it felt very erratic. Like I think there's a transitionary period or something that happens when the new soul that comes in basically tries to harmonize with the physical vessel. So
Yep.
for you, because Todd's been around you, has he made comments about that when that happens to you, that you feel very different or erratic?
I don't know. I haven't asked him, but I've got a feeling if you did ask him, he'd probably say yes, he would have noticed a difference. I mean, I can't see how he wouldn't have, because I felt different. And I, part of me went, on the day I was like, who is this man? Actually, I said, who the F are you? And what the F am I doing here? And I had to go and be by myself all day to try to what is going on here? And I've spent these last few months trying to adjust to that. And it's only this afternoon I went, oh, yes, that's right. I do belong here. And yes, this is right. And it's like the full integration occurred this afternoon. So interesting that you ask about this. I had no idea you were going to ask me about this.
I like to surprise my guests. It goes for a more authentic experience, because one of the things about the walk-in soul experience is, so what I have read, not that I read a lot, but what I have read from the walk-in soul experience is, the difference is it's a consented. So somewhere along the line, your higher soul said, I want, basically is going to take the back burner. What I'm not 100% clear is, does the back burner mean that you go off into the astral? Like, let's just say Morgan 1.0 goes back into the astrals and then Morgan 2.0 rides the body? Or do you just hang out there still, but you're not dominating the body?
It felt like I was still here, but I didn't get a say. And that this next thing was coming in and really taking over everything. And I was now the observer, but I didn't really get a say. And, it changed a lot of my normal practices. Like before that, I used to meditate every day. It changed a lot of my normal practices. It came in almost like an unconscious human being. That's what it felt like. Okay. I was over here watching and observing everything that aspect of me was doing and feeling and experiencing.
Were you ever in a sense of terror when it happened? Or was it like a calming presence for you?
No. It was neither. It wasn't terror, but there was a part of me was a bit concerned of oh my goodness, am I ever going to come back to normal? Right. Am I going to, am I going to come back to normal? Yeah.
And you know what? With my friend's experience, he never actually went that. So I'm wondering, because yours seems to happen with a little bit more, I would say, grace. Not that a walk-in process is a graceful or easy, grace and ease, but you seem to have a little bit more harmony than disharmony with the experience. I know with my friend, there was a lot of disharmony, but I wonder if it's because of the extensive shadow work that you did as a precursor, so that your attachments to your old life were already disanchored. You know what I mean? So with my friend, he had what looked like, I call them the muggles. So he has a muggle life. He had a job, he had a girlfriend, he had a home, he had a cat. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things. And then when that moment happened for him, it just instantly fell apart for him. So for people that loved him, like my brother had a really hard time being around him, because when he was interacting with him, it felt like a possession, like straight on talking to a completely different person. But with you, you don't feel like that to me. Not that I have known you for a very long time, but I certainly have known you since October.
Yeah.
But, So it
But
seems,
it happened after we met. So it happened shortly after we met, actually.
okay.
Yep. So it happened shortly after. And had you spoken to me, say, in November or December, I probably would have been a bit more, you know, I'm going to be really honest. I actually worried about, I don't feel the same way about this man. I'm not all over him. I'm not melting, you know, every time I see him. Not that I used to really do that, but, you know, it changed how I felt about Todd. And I just had to keep, I'd ask and I'd be told, just trust, like everything's okay. But I did, I mean, that's 5 months ago, nearly 6 months ago. So I've had this time to adjust to it. And it's today. Today I went, oh my God, I feel like I'm back. I look at Todd and it's that same, and I'm not all fluffy with it or anything, but like that same real connection is really there again.
Okay, so there's one of our viewers had dropped out basically dropped on and mentioned that perhaps you're more of a braided version of a soul. So I'm just wondering, do you have any knowledge about that? How does that feel?
No, but that explains very much how I've been in the last few months.
Okay.
It feels very much like that. Like part of me was sort of there, but mostly sitting back over here observing what this
Right.
new part of me was doing and how was it going to react. And interestingly, like the stuff that I knew was still there as well. So, you know, it has to be about expansion. Do I know what that's about yet? No.
Well, like, at least we get to digitally log this moment. So when we go back in a couple of years, we'll be like, oh, is that what that's for?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's also there's tons of different versions of how the soul works in conjunction with the physical vessel. So if you follow me on Flight, so my Facebook page is FLYTE. Don't find me as Huong Nguyen because I won't add you as a friend. Not because I don't want friends, but you're just going to be spammed with lots of pictures of my family and food. So there's nothing interesting on there for you. If on Flight, though, however, I do team up with my other friend Tien, and Tien is actually two souls in one body, and it has always been like that since I've known him. So for a good 3 years for sure. And for how he functions, so as an observer and as his friend, it's always interesting to see which person is going to show up. So how they work is they go on observer as well. So we've named the two souls, Dragon and Tiger. And what happens with him is dominantly Dragon shows up. So what happens is Tiger is literally just observing. And this is how Tian describes it, just like you. Like he's kind of out, Tiger would be out picking flowers on some cloud or whatever Tiger does, observing it. But then there are moments where it's a crucial moment, or there's a moment that it requires its direct participation, and then Tiger shows up, and then a different conversation. All of a sudden, I'm talking to Yen, and then Tiger shows up, and then I can feel the shift.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, Tien has experienced lots of trauma in his life, including sexual abuse. So it's one of those things. Again, it's a traumatic experience for him, where for whatever reason, in order for him to navigate this world, he has two, and they're not just two souls that get along well. His two are what you would call twin souls, where they are joined, but in one body, instead of what looks like on this side, observing you and Todd, where you guys have two in two physical bodies. So for yourself, and I'm wondering if that's what's happening. You actually have two, and it just depends on what's happening in terms of stimulation, that one takes observer role and then one takes the driver's seat. How does that feel for you?
No, I feel like in the last 5 months, it's been the other one. Like the new one that walked in, it's just been there. And then I sat back and observed it all until today. And I think because it's so new and so fresh today, I don't understand what it means, but I feel like whatever happened, it's fully integrated. I feel like I'm back. Like I'm not this separate thing separated for two parts watching something. I feel like today, everything just merged and joined and became one again.
So when you say merge, what does that mean for you? Is there like a different version, a newer version of Morgan, or is it like
I really don't know, Hung. I really don't know. I mean, maybe in 5 days I might have a little bit more of a, but I don't feel like this other part of me is separate anymore.
Okay. And then how does that, so, oh, hold on. I'm just going to do, okay, there's a lot of people are enjoying this topic, so that's good. There's lots of comments. So then not to complicate things more, but you guys are an exceptional couple when it comes to these unions. So not to complicate it. So on top of your personal, let's call it soul walk-in / soul braiding / whatever, on top of it, you also have the Todd and Morgan merge, I feel, as well. So, and we really, like, you guys really, from my point of view, you almost have become one. There is a lot of intersection between the two of you guys. And then I'm wondering, how do you differentiate that merge with your own higher aspect merge, or whatever aspect that's going on?
I don't really experience it like that. I mean, I love when you say that, but I can't see that or feel that, because, I mean, I've been determined from the very beginning to remain an individual, and I've been saying to Todd from the very beginning, we are two separate individuals. But what happens for us most nights is that we go to bed, we touch palms, and we actually merge and become one in that merging. And we stay merged during the process with everything that we're taught or known, or activations and all that sort of stuff. We stay merged at one for that process. But then when we wake up in the morning, we don't even speak to each other for the first few hours every morning. I'm definitely not user-friendly in the mornings, and he is either. We don't even really talk to each other probably till lunchtime. And some days it's not till, after the shows are finished or whatever. So we're very, very much individuals during the day. We do our own thing. We both work towards Soulogy. We've got certain things that we do together, but yeah, I don't know. And I can understand how, from an external perspective, it might look like that we're sort of merged as one, because we just flow together so easily and so well.
Yeah. So then how have things been with all the external high level of skill, is basically doing shadow work, and putting it in basically a linear program where it can be replicated with other people. So people can use this technique and then be able to further their own expansion for it. So with the shadow work, which you have been downloading for the last 20 years, you have mentioned?
No, probably that specifically. I mean, I've always been focused on shadow work, but the modality that I've been given is probably specifically come in the last 8 or 9 years.
Okay, so, and last night when we were just doing the basically, so Morgan and I just chatted a little bit last night about what that would look like. You had kind of renamed it. You don't even like the name shadow work. What was the new name that you made?
Well, I mean, for me, it's self-responsibility for reprogramming ourselves. It's just reprogramming, out of the old 3D fear-based stuff, and actually reprogramming yourself to what you actually do want.
So walk me through what that looks like. So one of the things that you're working on, and it hasn't come out into like a formality yet, but one of the things that Morgan's working on, which I love and super excited about participating in for sure, is basically launching online workshops for ShadowWorks. And you talked about basically breaking it down in modules and having small groups online and walking through those modules. So what would be the benefit for anyone that is newly aware of basically this part of them? Because you guys have such an expanding network. We have to kind of be mindful. There are people that are just walking in. They're like, what the hell are they talking about? Why are there soul walk-ins? Is that possession? So take it a little bit back and be a little bit more gentle on the integration. What is the benefit for a person to go through a shadow work program? Like, how did that help you?
Well, I'll talk about myself. My understanding was, that I picked these two parents. One I didn't ever meet, but through their DNA, as the sperm hit the egg and the DNA was expanded, then all of their DNA then became my DNA. So all of their beliefs, patterns, behaviors, thoughts, all of that sort of stuff was automatically shared down to my DNA. By discovering what it is about them and owning it as my own, and not just, one of the things about shadow work, everyone says, your shadow work is see this in another person and own it as your own. But there's always a polarity. So, for example, if I said that my mother was controlling, if I get people, write a list down, everything you think about your mother and your father. And so I write down, for example, my mother was controlling. Then by finding the polar opposite of that, which for me was subservience, and zero pointing both of them, owning, yes, I absolutely can be controlling, but I'm also spend the majority of my time in subservience and therefore bringing in controlling people to try to heal that. By owning both polarities and zero pointing that, then I'm reprogramming myself. I'm actually healing the imbalanced DNA that I picked up, in my conception. And by getting rid of both of them, it no longer unconsciously controls me. So what a lot of people find out is, most of their relationships then become energetic copies or perfect mirrors to the imbalances of our parents, our original programming.
Okay. So this is an opportunity. So what if, I'm just going to paraphrase. So what I'm hearing is if you're unsatisfied with your life, or if you're suffering and you're aware of it, you're aware that the root cause of this is going to be somewhere coded in your DNA, because, for example, in yours, it was your relationship with your parents. Then this is an opportunity for you to rewrite and recode your own narrative so that you can receive more joy or happiness or whatever it is that fulfills you in your life. So this program, or this technique, we can call it a technique, basically allows you to be in the driver's seat and gives you a tool for basically healing yourself instead of perhaps giving that power to someone else.
Yeah, and it quickens the life lessons. We no longer have to, create so many difficult life lessons to create balance through forgiveness and all that sort of stuff. It's almost like, by going in there and looking for it and clearing it, then you're left with more self-love. A lot of your lower vibrational energy, that heaviness, the shadows disappear. You automatically become more connected to your higher self and universal source intelligence and pure love. So everything just improves, dramatically in every area of your life.
So for yourself, what was the hardest part of the shadow work? What would you say was the one where you're like, it was challenging? Because I know in the conversation, you said it was easy, which I love. Because in my head,
I think probably the hardest part is occasionally, you might come across something really, really big and traumatic. So, you're not going to bypass some of that deeper emotional work that may have to happen at times. But the more you do it and the more you start seeing it as energetic programs rather than personal stories for you to go into, the easier and easier it gets.
Oh, okay. So it's more like, I would say baseline as you need to detach yourself and not own. But then how do you take responsibility if you don't own that?
But you do own it. You do own it. As you zero it, when you start off with the simpler things first, it builds up a strength in you. It builds up a knowing. It builds up your connection to your higher self. So you automatically, actually, through the process, become more detached.
Okay.
So as you then start building up to some of the more traumatic events, you've already understood, these are just programs. I don't have to take this personally. I'm actually just taking responsibility and clearing the programs myself. And it becomes more exciting. The more you do it, the more exciting it is. You within 5 days of doing it, you can feel, actually within 1 day of doing it, but there's a deep understanding by the 5th day. You've actually changed neural pathways. You behave differently. You're not getting triggered so much. You're thinking differently. Yeah.
So of all the programs, I mean, there's so many to choose from. What would you say the one, if you had one program to basically reprogram, what would be the one that had the biggest impact?
For me, the lists that I did on my mother and father, those original lists were where my deepest programming were coming from. So once I did those two, then everything, you know, that was life changing. And then, you know, there was a couple of X's. They were like gold. Like doing the process on the X's was just incredible. Every time I do one, I'm still mind blown, you know, at how much I change.
And how long, like, is it a long process? You said 5 days. Is it something that if you worked on or?
Well, it's as long as you want it to be. I mean, Todd calls it boot camp. He did it, you know, pretty much for 4 or 5, maybe 6 hours a day, nonstop for 5 weeks, and completely transformed his life. You know, he got rid of all the old pains, all the old traumas or any attachment to them. I remember, and he's spoken about this often, but I said to him one night, write a list of all your failures. And he came back in 15 minutes with a list of 20. I just shook my head and off he went again. And he came back, you know, hours later, I think 5 o'clock in the morning, he came and woke me up and was, this is all your fault and I'm in pain and I can't stop crying and what is this shit? And I'm like, get out. And he went and he cleared, you know, his attachment. He cleared every failure. And I think it was, you know, within days after that, I'm going to do this thing. You know, I've been talking to him for ages, for a year or so, about interviewing people. And it was days after they said, yep, I'm ready. Let's do it. So
but okay, what about us normal people that don't have a Morgan to kind of walk us through and hold us and say it's okay? You know what I mean? Because I feel like the big programs, like I would say for myself, I can speak about myself. The biggest program for me would be, I'm a mother of 2 kids. The hardest program for me, I would say at the DNA level, is letting go of that connection with your children. Because that protection and everything that comes with it, that mama bear programming is so hardcore. So how would you, what is the benefit of deprogramming something like that?
So you would write down, however you word that, I think you said mother bear.
Yeah.
Like, or overprotective or smothering or like anything like that. Look for the opposite polarity. Clear both of them and you will automatically detach from needing to be like that. Because I mean, that's it. And I was like that with my first child too, you know, over smothering, overprotective. I was dressing her in bed till she was 8 or 9 years old in winter because I couldn't bear the thought of her getting cold. You know, once I did this, then I was able to sit back and go, oh my goodness, this, if I step back, she will automatically align with her own higher self and be allowed to step into her own journey. Now, we're all meant to be doing that with our 13-year-old, you know, once our kids reach 13, we're meant to be doing that. Most of the Indigenous population around the world have. And I think the Jewish too, you know, at 13 is when the parents are meant to really step back and let go so they can step into their power. But that programming you've got will be from your mother somehow.
Okay.
So she was either like that or she was opposite. And so many of us say, you know, I'm going to be opposite to my mother and be a better parent. But the opposite polarity is still broken. And you end up with the same result.
Yeah. I mean, my parents, yeah, I would agree with you for sure. You do mimic, you do carry your parents' DNA for sure. So that overprotectiveness for sure is from my parents. I'm just curious so in our spiritual community, one of the biggest, I would say, fluff words that are thrown around is detachment. Practice detachment and then you will reach enlightenment. To be honest, I have a hard time with that because of my programming to my children. And it's one of those things where it's just like, they're still young. One is 13, the other one is 9, and I haven't got through the teenage years yet. And I'm very scared when I get there. That's okay. I joined a wine club, so I'm good. But when you get to that point, like, I'm trying to figure out, is there is there a collective benefit to dropping that parenting program when your children are so young? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the answer is. It's more like, what do you think?
If you're like to mother bear with your children,
Mm-hmm.
is that pure love, or is there some fear attached to that?
Oh, 100% fear. I'm like my self-awareness about the attachment. I know it's not necessarily a good thing, but I'm just like it. So the fear, so what is it that I have such a hard time with? You know what I mean? Because it's so hard programmed. For example, like if you, and people talk about this all the time, all parents kind of get this, but if you had to choose between your child and your partner, in a heartbeat, you would choose your child over your partner. So if some, like, you know, I wouldn't say, so my partner, Chris, I would actually have to think about it. I would be like, do I take the bullet for him? I'm not sure. Maybe he's a big guy. Maybe that bullet he can take himself. Well, for my kids, I'm like, I am there. I will take the bullet. It's okay if my life ends. So it's one of those things that's just like, there are certain, I guess, is it a fail safe that particular programming is okay? I don't know. You know what I mean?
The simple thing is that if you clear the programming, a statement like that or a question like that doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
I remember thinking the same thing, you know, when my kids were younger, before I did this work. Actually, really with my daughter, I didn't have it with my son because I'd done it by the time he came along. But you know, that same thing, you know, oh my God, if anything happens, you know, if we're on a ship and, you know, who would you save? And I was, well, my daughter, like my partner at the time can get lost. But when you clear the programming, thoughts like that don't even run. They don't even exist because you're in such a place of trust for your own children and their powerful connection with their higher self that you become you take a few steps back and you guide them, but you don't have that fear about their safety or their protection. You know, like my son, you know, at about 11 or 12, I'd say to him, you don't have a bedtime, but by 8 o'clock every night, there's no TV, there's no gaming, there's no this, so you can do whatever you want. So I started empowering him with making his own decisions very young. You're allowed to go out in the street and ride your bike because I just knew that he was going to be okay. Like all the fear around the parent. Like I used to hop on a plane and I'd go into terrible fear about the plane crashing because I was frightened about my children.
Mm-hmm.
Once I did this work, all of that just dropped away.
And I think when you did that, I remember you sharing a story about, there was a time in your life where you went through a really ugly custody battle, right? With your, I guess it's your son's father.
Yes.
And that was such a powerful story. So maybe go walk me through that story. Cause I think out of that, that's kind of what inspired my thinking of maybe it's okay to deprogram this fail-safe of parenting.
Yeah.
So walk us through that story.
That it was horrendous. It was just, I can't even tell you how hideous it was. This man was ex-military and he was out to destroy me and have his son. I would speak to my higher self every night. What's going on here? What's going on here? And my higher self said to me, you've actually got the war gene active in your field, which is why you pulled in a military man. I'm thinking, no, I haven't. I've never liked war. I've never been to war or whatever. Like, no, it's come through your father and your grandfathers. It's active within your field. So I said to her, well, so what do I do about this? And she said, go and bring up your DNA. Speak to your DNA directly, show me where this war gene is, which it did. It showed me, you know, all these dull coloured, you know, all my DNA was lit up and all these dull colours came up. So I spoke to that stream of energetic information and asked it to transform back to pure love, and it did. I went to court the next day and the judge threw him out of court and said, like, I don't want to give you any access to your son at all. There's something really wrong with you. Like, it was fixed instantaneously. And there's so much we can do, you know, through that. It's another powerful way to change your DNA, is to bring up and ask to see the patterns, ask for anything that you need.
Yeah.
That was mind blowing. That was probably one of my absolute favorite moments of, wow, this is just how you fix everything. I thought this was going to go on for months and months. I was convinced I was going to lose custody of him because my ex was trying to prove me insane for my spirituality, and I was sure I was going to lose him, and did that, boom, it was gone.
Yeah, that's amazing. I loved that story. Touched obviously the heartstrings for me, just because I can feel that the power behind it. And I think with these amplified energies that are coming in, which I don't think a lot of people have been talking about, is with the amplified energies coming in as a collective. I mean, you were kind of ahead of the game as a wayshower. That's usually how it goes. You kind of test the other forms of energy out there to see how that serves you, right? So how long ago was that for you, that moment?
Maybe if you can ask the question a different way. I'm not quite sure where you want to go with it.
How long ago was that moment in court? How many years ago was that?
Oh, the court.
Yeah.
About 8 or 9 years ago.
Okay, so 8 or 9 years ago, you were able to access what I would call heart energy. So what a lot of people do operate out of is head energy. A lot of it is up in here. So for today's energetic form, it is actually being amplified, the heart. I find myself personally, I am out of my head. And what happens is with the heart energy that's coming through, things seem to fall in alignment. Like I don't need to work so hard. I don't need to seem to like grill and do a pros and cons list of what, when it comes to like really hard decisions, not that easy decisions, like should I have a latte or, a macchiato? Not those ones. I'm talking about the hard ones, the big decisions where like, should I change my job? Should I change my relationship? Should I change my location? Should I just say, fuck it, I'm moving on. I don't want any of this anymore. I find the weird thing that's happening really fast and really quickly is there's an amplified source of energy that seems to be connecting directly to heart. And then so those decisions seem to be made for you. You know what I mean? Because that head energy is no longer in dominance. So with your story, what I love about it is it feels, that's why it's such an inspirational story, is 8 years ago, you accessed that flow of heart energy, and that event unfolded reflecting the heart part of it. So you didn't have to sit there with like your lawyer and all of these criminal evidence against your ex-husband or whatever, all the ugly stuff that happens in court. And for today's energy, it feels like that. It feels like whatever you accessed 8 years ago, as a collective, it just seems like we are doing it already. So it doesn't feel so hard anymore.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's getting easy. I mean, collectively, we're increasing our frequency. For me, I've been talking to my higher self for years before that. So, and even now, like we don't do anything. Like Todd wants to do this, and I'm like, nope, we have to wait till we hear, and we do. And that's been, I think it's been a little bit tricky for Todd. He's had to learn a bit of patience or whatever. But I really don't do anything unless I get the directive from my higher self, which is I feel it in the heart. It's like my whole being feels, yes, it's time to do this, or no, we've got to go and do that.
Yeah, I would totally
we're all moving towards that more and more every day.
And you know what? And it's funny because a lot of people talk about ascension and what ascension looks like. And behaviorally, people have like, I guess, images of what ascension would look like. So it'd be like more joy, more this and more that. But you know what? I feel ascension is actually more heart energy. And what happens is you get out of your head. What your true authentic soul happens is that is the driving force of the creation of your narrative instead of your brain. You know what I mean? So everything that lands on you, even though it may trickle in as like something awful, it unfolds and you trust it. So for example, like today's current time, it is awful out there, but for some reason I'm okay with it. It feels good, but not good in a like maniacal way, like the whole world's burning up, not like that, but it's just like whatever's happening, full trust that it's going to land exactly okay. It's going to be okay for us. Yeah. So for
and if it's not, then I don't see it as ascension. I see it as we're growing up, and growing up means taking responsibility. So if I found myself in any fear over what I might perceive as problematic or an issue or something externally to myself, my first thing is to address myself. Okay, what am I feeling? Where is it coming from? What are the polarities that's allowed me to fall into this? And clear it so I can, my job for me is to be in the most balanced state that I can possibly be in, which includes don't watch the news, don't read about it, don't even look at the funny memes, don't get involved in, and everyone do what they want, but for me, don't get involved in the savior type, prayer groups and meditations and everything that's happening, because why would you not trust what's being offered?
Yeah. It's funny, I do all of those things. I read the news.
Well, that's possibly right for you. I'm just talking about me. I just know I'm not going to, my job is to be as happy as I can and as balanced as I can be every day. So.
No, I totally hear you. I think that as empaths, there's a tolerance that you can take of incoming, and then you just shut down, right? So for me, I guess my tolerance is a lot higher. So I'm like, yeah, just give it to me. And then I'll get to the point where I'm like, God, is this day going to end? This is like the longest day ever. I swing back and forth on that. But like right now, I'm like, oh yeah, what else is new, kind of globally. So for, I know you guys operate on your heart. So it's not like you can give predictions of what's happening, but what is in the immediate future for both of you?
We really don't know. We are clueless. I mean, we thought we were going to be leaving here on about the 27th and house sitting for somebody else down in Fort Lauderdale, but that lady's cancelled her travel plans because of all the chaos that's going on. So we really don't know, and it's getting more and more comfortable not to know. I went through a period a few weeks ago and I was like, oh my God, this is too hard. I don't, but that day we had no money to pay for an RV park. You weren't allowed to park anywhere. And I just, that was like, oh my God, this is too scary for me. I need a holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's getting more comfortable not knowing. I mean, we're learning that what we need shows up. If we need somewhere to stay, it shows up. If, the stuff that we actually really need shows up. It's not money, but the things that we need. I mean, somebody sent us a backdrop. They decided that Todd needs, we were putting blankets up behind him, and I think it was sort of like there was part of it missing one day, and that's the day they were on, and they decided, well, Todd needs a backdrop, a professional backdrop, and it came, and it was great.
Yeah, no, and you know what? That's one of the things I really admire. There are a couple there, for example, I mean, we should actually come up with a name for you guys. Can we call you like Torgan or?
No, I don't think so.
Warthog?
I really, really like my own individuality, and I don't want to share my name with him, and I don't want his either.
You can't say Team Tortog? I'm not sure. But one of the things I love about you guys is that trust. That is so, when I have a rough day and I sit there and I'm like, I have to do like an existential crisis. I look around me so I can feel better for myself. That's just one of my coping mechanisms. And I'm like, you know what? Here is a couple that is putting your heart and, as Todd says, his ass out there for everyone. Your transparency, and you just go with the flow. And if it feels good, it's great. And if it doesn't, that's okay as well. And there's nothing really stopping you or backing you or anything. It's just in trust. So I love watching your guys' journey of that trust journey. It gives me so much hope and inspiration. So when my life, I think my life is falling apart. It never falls apart, obviously. But when it does, I'm like, hey, there are two people out there in the world, and they don't give a damn what's happening. They're just like, hey, every day is a gift. This moment is a gift. And if we can just stay there, that would be ideal. And all this noise coming at you, it falls apart. And I think You guys do an amazing job of letting us share that journey with you. So I do want to thank both of you for that, because I think a lot of people say it, but it's nice to hear it. You know what I mean? People, it's such a great community. So we're wrapping up. We have a couple minutes left, but one of the things I do want to say is part of the community is supporting and giving you back. So for example, I work a lot with dragon energy, and one of the things, the primary lessons that dragons always tell me is if you're gifted with excess energy, you need to move that energy forward. And there are different ways for everyone to contribute to keep that community and flow going. You can't hoard energy. It's just like toilet paper. People do not hoard toilet paper, all right? You can't hoard energy either. You self-implode. The physical vessel cannot actually hold all that energy. It's meant to gift forward. So if you are in abundance of that energy form, and it could be anything, it doesn't mean just monetary donations. Although if you want to contribute, awesome opportunity. I'm just going to go through and shamelessly plug everybody. So you guys have a Patreon account now, I understand.
Yeah, just recently, somebody, a lovely lady, messaged me, I think about 10 days ago, and said, "Why haven't you guys got Patreon?" I'm like, "What's that?" Because I'm a total tech retard. And Todd put it up that day, and yeah, it's been wonderful. It's so wonderful.
So it's great. So if you feel like, this community helps you, and I know it helps me when like I said, if I'm having a rough day, I like to tune in and see, and there are guests that are like, "Oh, that was so great to hear today. That message really inspired me, or gave me hope, or just helped me through a little bit of the rough spot." Contribute. And there's different ways of doing it. There's PayPal. Todd always drops the link in here, so watch for that. Patreon. But you know what? There's also other things. So you can share all of this message. Get everybody basically Soulogy above the algorithms. You can when you watch the show, put in tons of comments. That also helps with the algorithms as well. Todd mentioned he wanted a kilt and a thong, I think, with the Vera Augusti show
He
yesterday.
wants a what? A kilt and a thong?
Yes, remember yesterday? You guys were talking about
I must have missed that.
You were there.
Yeah, well, I wasn't there because I was so nervous. This is not my natural state, and that's okay. I am behind the scenes, and I've got someone who loves being out there in front of everybody, so it's a perfect fit. But yeah, I was there, but I was like, what am I doing here? Why did I read?
Yeah, so one of the things that Todd mentioned is he would like a thong, a man thong, and a kilt, because
a man thong?
A man thong. Ask him. I don't know. He said it. Because I think you guys were throwing around with Vera Augusti tutus or something. I'm not really sure. I just caught, of course, my brain catches the inappropriate parts of the program. But it's things like that. Sure, male.
No, please, nobody send him a male thong. That would not be a good look at all.
You sure? Yeah. So it's just like that. If you want to somehow move that energy forward, all of that does is keeps this energy of the collective humanity moving forward, and that's part of the expansion. So that's my point. My point is not
Soulogy is a free community service. So anything sent, like Todd's microphone is really cracking up at the moment or whatever. I mean, we used to continue this and expand this, in the best ways. We don't go out for dinner or we're not living it up or anything. It actually goes to payments that are made, to pay the servers and other, he wants to go live on YouTube. He's got to start and agree to pay, I think, a monthly fee. I shouldn't be talking about this because I don't know much about those details. But...
Eric says male thongs in Florida are called a banana hammock. Well, maybe Eric, you can demonstrate what that looks like, because
oh my goodness, we've got this wonderful friend, our darling Tom Whitebear, that sends pink shavers so Todd can shave. He sends Australian honey because we both like honey. And, he sends, sweet biscuits. We get these little package from Tom every few weeks or whatever with tea bags and stuff like that. And it's absolutely beautiful. It really is. Especially Todd's pink shavers, but no banana whatevers or thongs.
Banana.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Vancouver, we call them like mantongs, I guess. I don't know.
Man
That
thong.
would be interesting.
No,
to
no,
see.
no, no, that's not
No.
happening. And you know what? If it comes here, I'll take a photo and I'll send it to you.
It could be the new Soulogy, the Soulogy photo. Yeah, I mean, you don't know, right? But the whole point is, yes, you guys are also looking for community help and moving it forward. So it's just more about moving the energy forward if you are in abundance, and abundance is in totally different forms. So that's the great thing about being part of a community. And I want to thank you guys so much for creating the community, holding space for it, and being so committed to it. I know there are days where Todd looks rough, not gonna lie. And that little human aspect of fear sneaks in a little bit, and you can kind of see it, right? So it's one of those things where it's okay. Everything will land exactly how it is, but
Right.
everything always does. Did you have anything else before we kind of wrap up here?
No, I'm good.
You're good?
Looking
Well,
forward to wrapping up.
you did so well. It's great. I'm sure everyone really appreciates actually seeing you. So yeah, and you are so inspirational. So it's always good to have you on camera and actually feeling that energy come through the camera as well. So great.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Hong. You did a beautiful job too. We have to see if we can try and get some more people for you to interview, because you're available at nights, aren't you?
Yes, yeah.
And
So I have
it'd be actually great to, get a few people for you to interview here a few nights.
Yeah, it kind of works out because you guys are kind of winding down while I wind up.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So I don't know, is Todd there? He's going to sign off there.
Todd? Oh, Todd. Put his ears in. You have to come on.
I have to come on.
Yeah, come here and sit here for a
Well,
sec.
Well, I don't know if he has to come on. He just needs to end the program, end the live.
You need to come and end the program.
Yeah, I can end it.
Because we're both tech retards and we don't know
Okay,
what we're
sure.
doing.
All right.
Thank you, Hung.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.